Welcome to this Zentangle Quickie. My name is Heather Hartwick Gladden. I'm a certified Zentangle teacher, and today we're going to take a look at the Tangle Daviso from CZT Crommett. This is a different kind of grid pattern, and they call it an ISO grid. And interestingly, sometimes I like to take the time to take a peek and look something up, and because it's always good to learn something, and I wanted to make sure that I was understanding it correctly, and so this is interesting, and has a bit of a tie-in to my dad, and if as much as you can trust Wikipedia, it says the ISO grid is a type of partially hollowed out structure formed usually from a single metal plate or face sheet with triangular integral stiffening ribs, often called stringers. It was patented by McDonnell Douglas, which is now part of Boeing. My dad worked for McDonnell Douglas right out of college during the space years, and lots of story behind that. But anyway, I thought, oh, how cool is that? And whoa, cool tie-in. So let's take a look at this. And there's a couple ways to do it. We'll just do the one, and I'll show you the results, of a little bit different way of doing this. But, oops, not that pen, this pen. Okay. So we're just going to do like just a regular old grid. I'm going to divide this into thirds as best as I can. And actually, like if you've done the Tangle, I want to say like Enzeppel is kind of done this way, where we start off with a straight grid and then we make little triangles. This one, like I said, similar, but it's a little offset. So once you have your grid filled into your space, then let me share it this way. The way I've normally seen it, and of course when I'm playing with this, and I just immediately went to the way that I've always kind of done this, is to put diagonals and going, from intersection to intersection, right? This one we are not doing that. We're going a little bit offset. So we're going to, and this I found it a little bit challenging, but for the same reason that I usually go intersection to intersection when I'm doing these grids, when you're drawing, something extra, a diagonal. This one you kind of have to bend it also. I do the intersection to intersection, so that way it makes it the tangle a little bit more forgiving. So it accommodates for the grid being hand drawn and not exactly perfect. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start, and sometimes mine end up a little bit wavy, but that's okay. And in the end, you will understand. So we're going to make a little triangle here. All right, so I'm just going to start with one. But the trick is to get the angle right, because you want a sort of a straight line. But what I have been doing is making sure that I'm making just a little portion, and some of them a little bit bigger than others. But so my line ends up a little bit wavy, and that's okay. And so try it, and then this might be one of those that you try and then kind of, I tried on sketch paper or something else, and so that way you can just play with it. And then, so then what I'm doing is down here. Yep, same idea. And I have to think about this a little bit, so pardon my hesitation. And I'm just going slow, and actually just kind of doing a micro pause at each grid line that I come to. So that way it's like, because I just want to have this be a little section, not a big section. And then, and sometimes it ends up a little wavy, and that's okay. We can kind of straighten it out a little bit afterwards. But again, it makes it so that way it's forgiving of the grid that you have, because in Zentangle we don't start with grid paper or dot grid. It's about doing things freehand, and whatever happens, and if it ends up you don't like it and there's not really a way to fix it, save the tile and then look up transcending. I don't know. I think I do have that class posted because you can then use the tile for that. Okay, next thing is we're gonna fill in all of these little triangles that we created, and I put one up here at the top because there would be one here if we continued, and I changed to this graphic one just because it will make it go a little bit faster, and I may end up doing the whole pause trick thing so that magically, and if you are tangling along with me, that we can finish our filling in at the same time, and then you don't also have to sit and wait. Well, especially if you are just watching and then you're going to do it later, then you're not sitting there having to, let's fast forward past this. I try to minimize that. Okay, so each of these little triangles, we're leaving these big sections blank or empty for now. And, then what I might do is come back and straighten that out a little bit, but I might do that with the 01 pen because that's what I like to do, kind of neatening up. Sometimes with the graphics, or a thicker pen for filling in, I'll sometimes like just leave the corners empty so that way I can come back in with the 01 and fill them in, and also I don't run the risk of going over. Sometimes actually what I will do too is just do like an outline like that and then color in. The trick is then just not going real fast, which is what then I sometimes end up doing. It's just moving too fast, and then it gets sloppy, and then I'm sad. So, all right. So let me push pause, and you can push pause as well if you're tangling along with me, and we'll finish up those last few squares and be right back. Okay, so all filled in. Just doing a little bit of touch up because I wanted to also show. So sometimes, like if I've gotten a little sloppy here, just taking the 01 and going over ever so slightly above that, you can straighten out those little, bumps and things, and that's what I don't like that happens. And yeah, and just like I said, neatening it up a little bit with the 01. You could also, like, let's just see what happens very carefully. So I'm just doing, a slight line in that space where it was a little bit curvy, just evening it out a little bit, and it's okay. But I do want to point out that even though some of the lines were curvy, it still has a really neat effect. And as you can see, it looks like the Star of David, which is really, really cool. And yeah, and that's the name. That's why I was looking it up, ISO grid, and I mentioned it before I explained why. So the name is the combination of David and ISO grid. So that is the reasoning behind. That's why I went into that whole thing. Sorry, sometimes I like to take y'all along with me in the weeds, and then I explain what I'm doing. Okay, so let's see. So what's interesting, and let me just, actually, you know what? Let's see, if I hold, look in the camera at this. No, they kind of look the same. What I noticed on Tangle Patterns, and I will put that link in the description section, and it all depends on how your grid is. And actually, yeah, you always say you can see that mine is wavy, but you know what? It still looks kind of cool. This one I was a little bit more behaved on. But this one, what I started off with was this was a grid like this, right? So if I hold it this way, you can see those are the grid lines. This one, let's see, I did it on the diagonal. So yeah, so let me line up so that way we have grid and grid the way there. You know what's so funny is you turn it, and then my eyeballs are playing tricks, and I'm not seeing. It just depends on where your eye focus is, and I'm seeing different things. I love that when that happens. But anyway, so this one starts off with a grid on the diagonal. Everything else is the same, but you could do it, a little bit differently that way. And it seemed like in the picture that it made these a little bit more, not as elongated this way. But you know what? Play with the grid, play with that diagonal line that that goes along with it, and have some fun. Now, up to you. You could use, of course, color and things. You could, do other, something else on the inside. You could do some aura-ing, or, decorating it as you wish. I kind of like it the way it is. I was trying to think of like some, shading maybe around the inside. Let's just take a peek here and quickly. And gosh, it really messes with your eyes sometimes. Well, let's just see what happens. So if let's just put some graphite around the edge of this one, and all right. And sometimes when I do that, I like to go a little bit off the edge. Maybe if you ended up doing it for all of them. Sometimes I do that. This one, let's just see. We'll put it on several here. You could do it like almost like a checkerboard, not necessarily every single one. Well, heck, I might as well. There's only 3 left. I was trying to be quick. And I'm being kind of sloppy on purpose, because sometimes I think that's fun. Oh, interesting. Something else too, with the graphite, we can use it not just for shading, but for filling in. So if, so say you wanted to have it just be gray on the inside. I mean, I usually talk about being careful to not put too much graphite, because then you end up with something that's all gray. Oh, so that's kind of interesting. Now, if I did it darker, well, and then I have this line that I don't like, especially in this one here. Okay, let's just... All right, sorry, this is Heather's playtime now. Again, I said I was being messy on purpose. But let's just see what happens if we do that. I'm not... Okay, let's make this one happier. Okay. And making... Sometimes it's just like, well, you just keep going until you get it kind of how you want it. And if something is not right, then just keep playing with it. These are all turning into almost gray. But you could... We'll see if that even shows up on the screen. Might have to dry. I'm just putting a little bit of white jelly roll as like a little bit of a shine. I might be too light though. Light in terms of the oh, you can kind of see. Let's do opposite corners. A lot of times if you're doing something and you want to add the shine, it's helpful to do it obviously where it's a little bit darker so you can see it well. And I have done in the past where I've gone back and added, after it dries of course, and just add some graphite around it. Whatever I've done. Okay. I'm drawing it quick. You can kind of see it. This makes it interesting. So, anyway, neat tangle, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, would love to have a thumbs up, like, share, subscribe, and all of that. If you, especially if you liked it enough to see more, I would love to have you be a subscriber of the channel. Being a subscriber of the channel is free. I mentioned the description section. I have noticed that on YouTube. I was like, where do I find that description section? Seems like underneath the video to the right, it's almost like a little a V shape, a little like an up arrow, but it's just like, a V, either upside down or right side up. And if you click that, then it opens up the description section. So if you're having trouble finding that, that seems like that's where I've had to click. And maybe it's just because I was using my phone. I have to double check. But in the description section, you'll find links to the step outs, as well as, oh, now that's coming through better. It just has to dry a little bit sometimes. As well as links to connect with me. So if you enjoyed this and you'd like to maybe take an online class, would love to have you join us. I do both free and paid classes. Information is on my website and links below. And we have a nice Facebook group that where we share the stuff that I do on the classes, as well as on these Quickie videos, and just have a lot of fun. So would love to have you join that group, or follow me on Instagram, all of that kind of stuff. We can always use more tangly friends. All right, so with that, thanks again so much for watching, and I wish you happy tangling.